Media.
Right now we're seeing this like budding thing happening where things are becoming more modular. People are going to find ways to make things more adjustable. I want to be able to decide on the day where the texture on the hold is. I want this panel to turn a little bit. I want to make this wall a dihedral for this set.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Struggle Climbing Show. It's me, Ryan Devlin. I am your host, and this episode here is a live podcast that I recorded just recently at the CWA, the Climbing Wall Association Conference in Salt Lake City, Utah. And man, it was a rockin' good time. I gotta tell you, typically you hear things like, oh, I'm going to a work conference, and it is just like fluorescent lighting and pleated khakis and drudgery for hours and hours. But no, the CWA was, unsurprisingly, filled with awesome, stoked people and incredible brands. And there were pro climbers there, there were friends, coaches, and it was just a good crew, good vibes all around. Mo Beck was there, Daniel Woods. I hung out with Colin McGee and Nate Drolet. We did a little climbing outside at Little Cottonwood. And then on this podcast here, we've got pro climber Dylan Barks, absolute crusher, Brendan Scorpio, who works with Kilter, and we've got Jamey Sproull, who's the founder of Asana Climbing. And it's a great crew. It's actually a stacked podcast panel here as we look at what the future of indoor climbing is. Like, what are we going to find in the gyms in 5 years, 10 years, 40 years? We make some wild predictions in here. Will there be highball gyms? Will there be $100,000 volumes? Will you be able to just scan your outdoor project and have it immediately replicate out of a fully liquid to solid wall? These are the questions, the important questions that we ask in here. And then we also just talk about kind of sooner timeline, like where is board technology going over the next handful of years here? And what will this latest crop of climbers, like the young crushers right now who are growing up within modern setting and board culture, where will they push outdoor climbing going forward? Shout out to CWA, to Garnet Moore, and to the whole crew who put that incredible event together. I had such a blast down there in Salt Lake City. I can't wait to attend again. And thank you to Kilter and to Asana for inviting me out there, and also just for making the best dang stuff ever. You guys know I'm a huge fan. I'll put some links in the show notes for you there if you want discounts on a Kilter board or on an Asana pad system or Asana crash pads. I'll put those links down there. I'll bring you this episode here ad-free, but it's because of the generosity and awesome support of our friends over at Kilter and Asana. And on the back side of this, because this was a short conversation, we only had about 30 minutes to dive in and explore this topic before the rest of the event had to keep going. So on the back side of this, I'm going to continue this podcast and give you a little bit of my thoughts, just as I've digested this conversation. I'm just going to kind of riff, do a little solo riffing at the end of this thing. In particular, where I think gyms have kind of missed the mark and where there's some real low-hanging fruit for gyms to not only make the climbing experience better for all their members, but also to help us take our climbing and our skills and break through some plateaus and get to the next level. So yeah, just a little kind of solo wandering at the backside of this if you want to stick around for my thoughts on that. But let's just go ahead and jump in right now with our live from CWA panel podcast.
We're at the CWA. We're going to have a conversation about the evolution and the future of indoor climbing. We've got Dylan, Brendan, and Jamey joining us here, and you guys represent indoor climbing, pads, holds, and a pro climbing perspective. So we've got some really great and unique thoughts to be able to have here. I'm going to tee this off just kind of with what my personal journey's been like over the past year as I've really thrown myself into indoor climbing. And then I'm going to want to get your thoughts on where you think I and just the rest of the climbing community will be going from here. And so just to bring you guys up to speed, for like the past year, I really threw myself into training hard on my Kilter home wall full ride that I put into my basement. I got an Asana 3D pad system. I took a lot of falls. I tried really hard, and I went from climbing V4 to V8 in under a year. So it was like a huge, huge breakthrough for me. Whereas up to that point in time, a lot of the time that I spent at the gym was either on ropes, training for Red River Gorge kind of outdoor climbing, or just kind of messing around, like on the set problems with friends, having fun, like having good sessions, taking my kids to the gym, that kind of thing. But like I really got like super focused. And the goal for me over the past year was to try to get strong and skilled so that I could then go outside and take that strength and that skill and apply it to rock. I'm very aware that a lot of the people that listen to this podcast and are listening right now, their goal is to progress and have fun just in the gym. And it's not with a broader goal to have some sort of outdoor project or maybe even climb outdoors ever. And so, the community is like kind of the spectrum of what climbing indoors means is pretty vast. And that's why I'm excited to have this conversation, because when we're talking about what's the evolution of indoor climbing, it's not just for one purpose, to try to get strong to go outside or to try to become a competitive climber. It's for a lot of different purposes, and the tools and the equipment that we use has a really big impact on that. So I guess let's go down the line. I'd like to get maybe just your thoughts about what your gym experience has been like, what your indoor climbing experience has been like up to this point. And then we're going to open it up and talk about, okay, where does it go from here? What's this thing going to be like? Jamey, we'll start with you, man. When did you start climbing indoors?
I'm the oldest guy in the room. So I started climbing in 2000, in my very late 20s. I mean, I learned how to climb in Boise, Idaho, when the greatest thing going was the downtown YMCA. And,
they had walls in the YMCA?
They did. They converted a racquetball court. And
it was like straight vert plywood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a couple angles.
Okay.
Like inset wall holds.
Yeah.
I mean, it was rad. It was
what
really
were those,
rad.
like the Entreprise?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Was it like
sure.
that? Like the
Yeah, it was-
modular
yeah.
holds?
Exactly.
That's great.
Everything was just like, the hardest stuff was the smaller crimpers, you know? It was really.
And what were you falling on? What were the pads in that YMCA?
I don't remember there being anything. I mean, it was like a roped floor, because most of the gym was roped. I mean, it was the size of a racquetball court.
Got it.
Everything was roped, but there was a bouldering line, but there was nothing. I think I started Asana after I started climbing, right? Until we furnished them with one drag pad at some point in time.
Not even
which I think is still there, by the way.
Yeah. So out of necessity, you're like,
Yeah.
I need
We'll
pads
drag
to
this
fall on.
around. Yeah, we'll spot each other over this drag pad in the room.
That's great.
I'm not kidding you. I went back 6 months ago and that thing's still there. And it's actually still in good shape.
Still kicking, huh?
Still kicking,
That's
too.
amazing.
So, yeah.
Well, Brendan, how about you? We got three Michiganders, by the way, on this panel today, and an Alabaman, right? Is
Yeah,
that
I'm
three?
from
Right,
Alabama.
okay, so
Correct.
kind of you're an
Represent.
honorary Michigander today, Jamey.
Thank you.
Brendan, when did you start climbing in Michigan?
I tried a little bit pre-COVID, but I'd say I really started climbing post-COVID, like 2021 area.
Okay.
The exact opposite experience. I started off in a brand new, nice, fancy facility.
Yeah.
This like big Walltopia gym down in Detroit that I also started working at. And a lot of that was like, first introduction was immediately with like the really shiny, nice stuff, like all the crazy padding, all that kind of stuff. And I immediately started jumping into a little bit more of the more modern style. So the things that I most typically fell on were anything that required finger strength. Anything that required crimping, that kind of stuff. But I really immediately kind of grew into like the stuff I saw on TV, like jumping, like paddling, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, cool. All right, Dylan, how about for you, man?
I started like basically at the age of 12, so like almost 20 years ago now. Just got linked up with like the major gym in Ann Arbor and just like got obsessed with climbing basically. And I know I've had an interesting relationship with like competitions, like training for outdoors and then just gym climbing. Because originally I got really excited on competitions. I started doing that pretty early.
Yeah.
And so I would just use spray walls in the gym to train for that. I ended up building like something in my parents' basement that was like super small, and I was able to get some holds and could like do circuits and stuff and train for comps that way. But then of course like the Red River Gorge, I kind of discovered probably when I was like 15 maybe, and then all of a sudden that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
But I feel like when I was competing back then, it was like competitions were not kind of its own distinct style like they are now. Especially like modern bouldering is almost like it's just separate entity.
Right.
So I was kind of able to use spray walls or just basically just climb in the gym and know that I was training for comps and for outdoors, and then just kind of go and choose like the battle I wanted to take on, I guess. But I think for Michigan, you kind of have to be a gym climber at heart almost, and then just like weekend warrior and go do it or whatever. So I know that's kind of been my experience.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, you took that strength and the skills that you developed on the youth circuit and have really applied it like in incredibly impressive ways. It should be noted that amongst this panel that's sitting here right now, combined, we are 515 and V16 climbers. All of that falls on Dylan's chair over here, but
Exactly.
but still
I'm about to say,
combined,
anytime.
that is still like a team ascent that's going on over
As
here.
a group.
Right, as a group.
Exactly.
As a group, we're kind of crushing it, you guys. I feel pretty good about that. Now, I was thinking about this the other day because I've been diving into a lot of climbing history, and I talked to, a lot of the historical climbers. I climbed with Alan Watts not too long ago in Smith Rock, and I've had Lynn Hill on the show, and Peter Croft, and just was talking with Neil Gresham, and read the Jerry Moffat book, and so I've kind of been just like going on this kick of like historical crushers, and I was thinking to myself today, and I'd love your all's opinions on this. Do we think climbers today are stronger than the climbers that came up in the kind of 70s, 80s, 90s? Or are they not as strong, but more skilled than those climbers?
Mentally, I don't think they're as strong because some of the stuff that I see from back in the day where they're like, oh, I'm going to do the thimble and I'm going to have just like a towel on the ground and do it at my workouts.
Right.
I don't think any of us are doing that today. So mentally, it's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
But as far as strength, I guess from a setting side of it, it's definitely different because we talk about like a lot of modern athletes and there's a big call for more like old school style setting and competitions. And like, I want to see power boulders. And then you're like, you put this thing up and none of the setters can do it, but the athletes come in, they all flash it. And they're like, oh, it was only like V13 power. That's easy these days for me. Things like that. So I think stylistically they've grown quite used to the style. But I don't know. Yeah, you go and travel and you try some of the older climbs, like you go out to like Yosemite and you try like a V6 in Yosemite and you're like, whoa, that's a totally different world than some of the newer things that are being put up this day. So maybe style specific, maybe not, but like, I don't know. Some of those old crushers were way strong.
Yeah, I mean, you think about John Backer doing, 50 pull-ups on fingertips, or Wolfgang Ulick, and doing like pinky one arms on slings. There are some athletes that can do that now, but stylistically, a lot has changed. Jamey, do you have a thought on that? Opine on.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, for me, it's like, I mean, just watching new things happen. First ascents, those types of things. I think that always takes a combination of, having the vision for it and, having the strength. I think technologies have obviously helped a ton, but no, I put everybody on the same level. I mean, it was just to be able to, I was down in Waco, years ago, and John Sherman was there, and we walked up to Run Spot Run, and, you look at that and know that he was climbing that over a swatch of carpet, and I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, he is a beast, absolutely a beast. So yeah, no, I give mad respects to the history for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if they just wanted it a little bit more back then, Because if you're risking the biscuit over a little piece of carpet, man, like you want that thing bad. Dylan, you're like on the forefront of like really hard cutting edge climbing outdoors and indoors, and no doubt I feel like climbers today are climbing harder than like harder grades. We're seeing like just this explosion into V17s, proposed V18 now. That's quite different than it was 30 years ago, but also a lot of the technology has changed in those 30 years with regard to shoes or tactics or knee pads and also safe landing zones and this kind of thing. What do you think, like if you kind of look at the evolution of performance, outdoors and indoors for that matter, what do you think have been the biggest levers that climbers have been able to pull in order to continue to progress in the way that we have?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I think honestly it's just like there are so many more tools that you can use now. Like obviously we've gotten like smarter in how we train, I think. But compared to other sports, I still feel like, I don't know, just like the climbing science and training, it's like evolving, but still some of it comes down to like some very old school techniques. It's like you still see a campus board in a gym, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But definitely like, I know it's interesting because I think about like if you did give, say, like a Ben Moon or a Jerry Moffat, like the things that we have now, would they be even stronger? Like I would say a little bit, but like also I think some of those simplistic tools give you like a pretty good base as well. But I think like, yeah, especially for like comps, like I don't think you can be that good in that style unless you have a very specialized tool like a spray wall with all of the like right holds and things.
Right.
But yeah, honestly, I think just specificity for what you want to go do. Like, I mean, you see it with like the simulators and things like that. It's just like, I think maybe you could get there if you didn't have those, but I think it helps us kind of get there more quickly, which is cool because then you can like train for something, do it, move on to your next thing, like
Yeah, no
that
doubt.
kind of thing. So, but
Yeah, I'd like to talk about like what these tools are now that are available, not just to pro climbers, but just to people like myself, weekend warriors who just want to train specifically for a project or work on a weakness, in my climbing. And so I used, as a lot of the listeners will know, a Kilter home wall full ride that was adjustable, and my trainer, Kevin, set very specific progressions of problems on it to shore up my weaknesses. And so we were really able to, in a relatively short amount of time, as I'm a busy parent and have a job and all that, in a relatively short amount of time, we were able to help me level up, to help me like break through some major plateaus that I had hit. I'd been a V4, V5 climber for 5 years, and then in the course of 8 months, punched into V8. And we had very specific tools for it, which is really cool. Brendan, from your point of view at Kilter, where do you see these tools going? The kind of breakthrough in boards and adjustable boards and light up boards, Kilter's been on the forefront of all of that stuff. Will it continue? Will that trend continue? Or are there new things that you're aware of that I'm not aware of that you can maybe tell us about, or at least just guess about, where we'll see training and indoor climbing going over the next handful of years?
Yeah, one thing that I think is really interesting is you have your first generation of climbers right now that are growing up climbing on these training boards. Like there are kids that like I see getting coached, or like I've coached in the past, even in Boulder, and it's like we didn't really see the existence of like Kilter boards or these like light up adjustable walls until adulthood. But a lot of these kids, they started at like 6, 7 years old climbing on these boards, and now they're teenagers and their bodies have kind of grown around that style of climbing. And I think part of it you see on the outdoor side of it, you see a lot of board style climbs, even like your Burden of Dreams and stuff at the highest level, that these kids are like coming up and they're starting to make incredible like jumps and how they can pull on these holds and the positions they can get their body into just because of how much training they've done. And even on the comp side, like one of the conversations I had the other day about a new board that we're getting ready to release is people like, oh, I can do like coordination moves on this on this training board. Or like, oh yeah, they're doing these like on the Kilter board, you have these big jumpy moves and stuff. So I think a big portion of it is I almost will think that similar to how you see like things in, I guess I'll use like cameras as an example because I have a background in videography. You have like a camera for every specific thing that you can need a camera for, whether it's like low light or like fast moving things. I think you're gonna start seeing something with boards where you have boards that's like, this is a board that like the big focus on this is going to be for that comp climber. Things you can jump around on, things you can get really like powerful, but may not be the most finger intensive, or then boards that are like, this is gonna be very open hand. Like this is gonna be really nice for like training for like your Red River Gorge trainers and stuff like that. So the big thing that I see happening, at least from the training board side of it, is just like more specificity in what the purpose of the board is. And you'll probably see that happen a lot more. We have boardrooms opening up all over the world, where a lot of gyms are being like, oh, I don't necessarily have a room for, I don't have the room for this big climbing wall and like rope walls and all this kind of stuff. I'm gonna put like a big spray wall and adjustable slab, and then I'm gonna put like 5 adjustable boards in here. And those gyms have people absolutely just like crushing, whether it be outdoors or in comps, or even just like the existence of board accounts. And people are starting to treat board climbing like its own third space in climbing, where it's like, yeah, they may never go outside, they may never go into super heavy comp climbing, but like that is their thing.
Yeah.
And they're doing really good. And now you have guys pulling like V14 on the board. And like proposing V15 on a board, which like 5 years ago we didn't think was possible.
It's wild to see, how quickly the community, like the hard charging amateur board climbing community has grown. It's crazy to see what these guys and girls are doing on the boards. Jamey, you spend a ton of time in gyms, obviously, because you're putting in a lot of pad systems in gyms and then checking in on those. How do you see the gym sets evolving, over the last handful of years? And is there much of a crossover between like board culture and gym set culture, or do you feel like they're pretty siloed?
With all the new coordination moves being set and everything like that's obviously a major cultural change, which has just left me in the dust.
As a climber?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Same.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, and I do think that it's somewhat separate, to the the systems boards that we have right now. At least you don't see a lot of that same thing being set in that world. But I think it's great. It's the next step in the evolution, and I love seeing it and being a part of it. So
well, I want to push this thing like forward. I want us to think about like, okay, what is indoor climbing going to look like and feel like in 10 years and in 50 years, all right? Just like a wild thought experiment, because we're all gonna be left in the dust, soon enough. Yeah. Even the young guys on the panel here. And I mean, in my mind, I'll just like make a prediction because this is like the dystopian future of climbing. But, we've seen some videos of like indoor highballs that are like 30, 40 feet high and people falling on airbags. We've seen these mega volumes that cost, $10,000 for one hold. So is there like a future of climbing where we just continue to push this thing to the point where there's a part of the gym where it is like insane, where the volumes are massive, the risk is huge. Maybe there's like a really safe thing to land on. Jamey back there will have to evolve a sauna to figure out how to keep people from decking too hard. But is there a culture of gym climbing where the volumes just keep getting bigger and the problems get higher and harder and the falls get higher, where it brings more of what we associate as outdoor kind of risk management experience indoors? Or do we travel more down a road where we're getting specific and every gym will have a Burden of Dreams replica and, whatever kind of the more cutting edge boulders of the time are, and it's just trying to kind of keep up with outdoor climbing? I don't know. I can kind of see both. Dylan, what do you think, man? What do you think? What's gonna take us 10 or 15 or 20 years into the future in indoor climbing?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I can kind of see what you're saying, this more like dystopian type, like totally futuristic thing. But I almost see that as like still separated from more of what a like climbing gym we know today. Like you see more and more facilities that are opening up that are like specializing in a certain thing. Like some of these like boardrooms that are opening up like are actually teaching, like almost like a fitness type class with the boards.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe we'll see, like highball gyms opening or something with big airbags or like, so I could see like more specificity, not like one gym trying to do it all, but like a gym that specializes in, like, I don't know, highball bouldering that you could fall on these big pads and it's sweet in that way. But then I don't know, I also see like today's regular gyms, like, I don't know, I think about it like an iPhone or something. It's like the like basic features of an iPhone. I mean, they've definitely gotten better, but it's like, or I don't know, the core things haven't changed all that much. It just gets like better and better quality kind of. Like,
right.
I can definitely see that. Like, I think, like working at Kilter, like you see that a lot, like there's a lot of companies like Absolute and things like that that are putting out these like VTF material holds that are just like same shapes, way lighter. Like that's gonna make a route setter's job easier. I don't know, I think with all of the boards, it's like, not only can you be specific, but you can also like, I think people just have more enjoyment from being able to choose what they like.
Yeah.
It's like, if you really love small holds, you can climb an attention board. If you just like, you really enjoy jumping around, like maybe a Kilter board's for you.
Right.
So I can see it going both ways, just like keeping kind of what we have and just like the quality gets better and things get more streamlined, but then also I bet there's going to be some like futuristic ideas out there. So I don't know. I could see both happening.
Yeah. Brendan, what about you, man? Do you think we're going to see $100,000 single holds out there in the future? Do you think every gym will have replicas of the hottest climbs?
In the short term, I definitely see replicas. If I like look way in the future, I want to see something from like Wall-E or something like that, where you're just like looking at a computer screen and you're just like,
just video game climbing?
Yeah, you're like, okay, so I want the wall to be like 30 degrees today. I got these holds. I'm gonna take this hold. I'm gonna change the angle of it. I'm gonna change this. The usable surface. I actually want the usable surface of the hold to like shift to this part of the hold. I think that like right now we're seeing this like budding thing happening where things are becoming more modular. You have stuff where it's like, okay, like we have experimented with big holds. Like you have your Roxy's of the world that a hold is bigger than me and costs more than my car. And then I think from there though, now you're starting to see things like Walltopia just did something where they have that rope wall that like the wall itself is starting to modulate a little bit, and it's starting to, and you have rope walls that like are sectioned off on different actuators. And you have stuff like we have at Kilter where we have like 24-foot long slab walls that can go from like -10 to 40, and like without giving out too many details of the future, because I love my job. I think again things get more modular, where it's like the future of climbing. I see it where like maybe the gyms won't get bigger because like at the end of the day, like there is still space, and you have a lot of countries outside of the US that don't even have as much space as we do.
Right.
But I think within the space, people are going to find ways to make things more adjustable. I think it's a thing from like, I want the holds, but I want to be able to decide on the day where the texture on the hold is. So I'm going to move my texture around. I want to decide when I walk up to a boulder, like they're all going to start off as flat walls. So it's like, I want this panel to turn a little bit. I want this panel to turn a little bit. I'm going to make this wall a dihedral for this set. And then I'm going to like change it out and do it this way. And even in like the volume sets where it's like one of the big things that like we're currently looking at is like, how far can you stack volumes before things start to fall apart? Like how many volumes can you have to where they fit in a row?
Right.
And part of it is like, well, the walls need to get bigger because now we're 6 volumes deep into the stack and I can go further. And someone will run across the entire thing. But like, I think that the big future, at least the thing I see, is I see things getting like super adjustable, super modular. And I think that that's also from like a setting standpoint. That'll be really cool because it'll help us stay away from the age of AI where we get replaced by computers. Because people are trying. I have people email me all the time being like, hey, I'm going to try to write up an AI system to do route setting for you. And I'm like, you're talking to the route setter, right? I don't necessarily know how psyched I am on that.
That's right.
But I think things just getting more modular, more futuristic in that sense is where I personally see things going.
Yeah, cool, man. I appreciate the perspective there. Jamey, I'd love to hear from you if you think, higher, riskier, indoors, outdoors, where are we going to be falling in the future?
I honestly see more accessible is what I see. Trying to reach the broader community. I feel like that, climbing started with, a smaller group of people who were willing to take massive risks and wanted it to be more exclusive and harder to be able to do what they were doing. And I feel like that where we have been going and where we will probably continue to go is to be able to make climbing something, a sport that people see that's achievable for them, whether or not it's, making the holds easier to grab or, more ergonomic or, so that we're able to reach more people, right? I mean, that's probably where I see it going in the future from more of like a realistic perspective. I think there are gym owners who see that and see that the more people that we can bring into the sport, the more successful that the sport is going to be. And then there's always going to be the top end athletes that we'll look at and look up to and admire, and that will train to be able to be those people. That's like realistic. That's sort of where I see it.
Yeah.
But I love Brendan's idea, being able to walk in and like, wave your hand like this and, the entire wall modulates and, now you have this really amazing rail that's slopey on the beginning and juggy at the end.
Yeah, like maybe
it sounds
you
amazing.
upload a picture of your project, or you just type it in or whatever. Okay, I'm working on this. I'm working on Megatron, and all of a sudden the Megatron simulator just kind of pops out of the wall.
There we go, an entire thermoplastic wall.
Yes, dude.
Instead of an individual hold where you like send in your project and the wall just like sucks in.
Just
and
molds
shows
to
it.
itself, right? The texture comes where the texture needs to be. Oh, I'll be sick. Nobody would ever have to get fresh air ever again. Well, let's wrap things up by just talking about where we think, as you kind of ended your piece there, Jamey, on where we think professional climbers could go. Because I agree, the key, and for most people who are listening to this show right now, we're amateur climbers that just want to have a great time, stay healthy, have some community, and the climbing community is amazing. And so we get together at a gym or out at a crag, and we push ourselves. And we really experience life in a better way, I think, when we push ourselves out of the comfort zone a bit. But we're not going to be pushing the cutting edge of climbing. But people like Dylan are, and folks that kilter trains and that are crashing on Asana pads are, they're the ones that are going to be pushing the sport forward for many years to come. And where do we think that can go? We can talk about boulder grades. We can talk about sport climbing grades. We've got people, we've got at least one V18 now that's been proposed. We've got a V17 that was put down in just a few hours by Amish. And maybe not too far away from seeing what, like a 9C plus or a 516 route would be out on sport. How close are we? I mean, every generation has this conversation about like, have we met it? How close are we to the top end? Dylan, where do you think the grades are going to be pushed in the next, let's say, 10 years?
I guess it's kind of hard to say. Like, I feel like now that we have kind of stepped up to V17, proposed V18, there's so many more like V16s. Like, I feel as though we're just gonna see a lot more of that kind of thing go down for a while. I feel like you kind of, I don't know, need to like gain this energy or momentum. And also I think just kind of, you know, understanding where we're at with like grades currently and just like, yeah, kind of build, I don't know, as a collective from our upper end. And so I think it might take a while for like, if you're like looking back, it was like V14 used to be like the upper edge.
Right.
Where like that was like super noteworthy, that kind of thing. And now it's almost like that has to be V16.
It's wild.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that is just gonna like slowly notch up. But I think people at like the upper end of the sport are like, you know, cutting their teeth on like 16, 17 and it'll like give them the vision for what they can do. But it'd be interesting to see too, because I feel like with kind of the younger generation, like give
Yeah,
them
how old was
some
that kid that just did
time.
No One Mourns the Wicked? Wasn't there a
16.
teenager,
He was like a
16-year-old that just did?
16-year-old.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. It's just like, yeah, I think it would be interesting to see what they can do, kind of working their way through like all the established stuff we have now and like kind of putting their, you know, new style of training kind of to good use. So I think that will be exciting for sure.
Brendan, what about for you? Well, let's take it inside too. Will we see V17 on a board?
Yeah,
Is
probably.
it possible?
I
Like, are
mean-
the holds right there? You know, like could V17 exist without it being just like some like lunatic, you know, one-hand dyno to a 8mm edge or something?
I mean, that may be it too, but I think a big part, yeah, one of the things that we're seeing is like the boards are like the angle in which people want to climb on is just gradually getting steeper. We think about like 10 years ago, 10 plus years ago, you think about the moon board and like that 40, 45 area and people were like, this is it. And eventually it became 50. And now right now it's like the kilter board, the tension board, all these boards, people are like 50 is like the place.
I
It's
love
like
50.
Yeah,
Personally,
50
I
is
really love
great.
50, yeah.
And then I heard the other day, there's like an Instagram video and it was a few pro climbers, other pro climbers, and they're like, man, I think 60 is going to start becoming a big deal.
No kidding.
And now it's like, now you have people are like, okay, now we're getting close, now we're starting to go to 60. And then it's like, oh, pretty soon it'll probably be 70. And then before you know it, there's going to be a board out that has a roof in it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, now we're just doing 90 and we're all pulling on 10mm edges there somehow. And
I
think
feel like
that-
70 on the kilter feels like 90 though. Like that thing is
Might as well
nuts.
be.
Yeah, it's
It
just
might-
it's close
it might
enough.
as well be. And then I think from the other side, from like the competitive standpoint, and I think about this a lot as a route setter, where it's like we just recently had like the Pro Climbing League, and it's like as climbing builds as a sport, the side of it is it needs to be entertaining.
Yeah.
The climbing industry will grow as fast as the climbing industry makes money, at least from the competitive side of it. And the Pro Climbing League, it's like something different. Like I've introduced a lot of people to rock climbing, and we watch World Cups, and they're like, it's kind of hard for them to grasp just how incredible the things that these climbers do are. But then you see them racing side by side, and you're like, whoa, that's a totally different world. So I think the Pro Climbing League is like a really cool glimpse into, at least in my opinion, what the future could be from a competitive standpoint, where it's like, yeah, you can do these incredible moves, and we don't know how hard the moves could be, how hard the moves can get.
Right.
But can you do those when you have someone next to you also trying to do them and maybe a little bit faster, and we add like the pressure standpoint. And I think that that's a really cool place things to go. I feel in a lot of ways, I kind of feel like the existence of like the Pro Climbing League feels to me like when they added the 3-point line in basketball, where it's like, okay, now we can change a lot of things because of the existence of this like head-to-head style where it's like, maybe the wall can get, like maybe at some point you see a 1v1 in climbing and it's on a lead wall. Where it's like, okay, yeah, you can jump through a boulder pretty quick, but like do 50 feet of lead climbing and keep your head while somebody's racing next to you. And you almost saw that at Seco Block for years that they've been doing a similar thing. So like, I think the competitive aspect of it and the showmanship aspect of climbing is just gonna like go through the roof in the next few generations.
Hell yeah. I found PCL to be like highly entertaining. And it's always cool to see like wild beta breaks too. So like, you
like
know,
the hand jams?
double hand jams
Yeah.
are always fun to see. You know, bloody knuckles are always good to see on TV. Jamey, we'll wrap it up with you, man. Where is it gonna go?
I mean, for me, it's, you know, the sky's the limit kind of thought process. I mean, I remember like watching on the computer screen, you know, Chris Sharma 515 back in the day and
Yeah.
thinking, oh my God, this has got to be it. And then, you know, and then he did like he did Mandala and was like, wow, this is it, right? Or this is it. And then you just, you know, over the past 20 years, just seeing that just being shattered in every possible way. So from my perspective, it's just, once again, we're talking about at the beginning, right? The first ascent and what it's like to understand something is a new possibility. And I think that as we continue to make climbing accessible, bring more people in, train them to be the beasts that we're currently training as well, I just think that, yeah, the sky's the limit. It's going to and go on beyond what we can contemplate today. And that's kind of the exciting part of the whole world of climbing, in my opinion.
I'm psyched to see it. Well, gentlemen, thanks for taking the time to hang out. We'll stay tuned. Dylan, you got your work cut out for you, man. V19, get to work.
Better get training.
Better get to it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, y'all, that wraps things up from CWA. Dylan, Jamey, and Brendan, thank you so much for your time and bringing your perspectives and your expertise. I really enjoyed this conversation. It kind of wandered into places that I wasn't expecting, especially as we were looking at like the Wall-E dystopian future, or maybe not dystopian, maybe like incredible, shiny, beautiful Wizard of Oz future of climbing gyms. And it'll be really interesting to see. This episode now is a time capsule. So let's revisit it in 10 years. And in 50 years, will I still be alive? Yeah, I'll still be alive. I'll be 96. Probably like climbing V18 by then with my bionic exoskeleton helping me out. That's something we didn't talk about. Aid, like integrative aid, that's where we become cyborg climbers. I mean, what's the difference between wearing a knee pad and having an exoskeleton that gives my tendons the strength of 1,000 men? I don't know. I guess we'll have to save that for another episode. That's not what I had intended on riffing on at the end of this thing here. But now that I'm saying it out loud, where do we draw the line, you guys? You know, back in the day, it was just people falling on nothing or squares of carpet and having really terrible shoes and shoe rubber. And then, somebody duct taped a phone book to their leg to make a knee bar work. And the technology of climbing gear has advanced so much, setting aside what we talked about in this episode here with the advancement of adjustable light up boards like Kilter makes, or really comfy and safe pad systems like Asana makes. What about me getting tendon transplants? What do you think? Maybe if I just don't tell anybody. Well, you'll know. I won't tell anybody that I got tendon transplants, but there will be signs. Okay, let's not go down that rabbit hole. Although I think that will be a fun conversation. It's just going to be one that has to happen with beers. Maybe I'll get the Run Out guys on here, or we'll do another panel. Maybe for like Rocktoberfest, we'll just talk about like kind of the wild future of what aid means for climbers. Actually, I've been talking about doing a podcast with Tom Randall and Pete Whitaker. They've got the Wide Boys podcast now. If you haven't listened to that, check it out. It's really funny. It's really interesting too, but it's also just like always a great laugh when Tom and Pete get together. But we're going to do a menage a pod, as we've talked about doing. We're like WhatsApping each other, and we're like, let's find a time. It's not going to be anytime soon because Pete's going on this big expedition. But at some point, we will get together, and maybe this will be the topic for that. But I did want to talk about some other things in this kind of solo outro, just springboarding off of some of the ideas that we discussed in this conversation here at CWA. And the two things that kind of stood out to me that we didn't talk about specifically in this, and these are much more near term, so we're not talking about like the wild, kind of future, the Disney's Tomorrowland concept of like what climbing will be, but just like, hey, what could gyms do right now that could really improve climbers' experience? And so both of them are practical ideas. So the first thing that came to mind, and that's because right now I'm in an endurance training block, is that because the trend overwhelmingly right now in new gym openings is that they're bouldering gyms. I think it's like 70% of new gyms that are opening are bouldering only, so no ropes. A lot of them will have adjustable boards, which is freaking rad, but also like really great set problems and all of that. But one of the things that I feel like these gyms are sleeping on, and it is such low-hanging fruit for them, is to put a tread wall in there. And they take up such little space. And then you can just climb forever, and you can practice endurance climbing. You can adjust the angle. Like the new tread walls, you can get to, I think, 35 degrees overhung and vert, and maybe even a little bit slab. But, like kids love them. New climbers love them. You can work on technique on them. You can run your laps if people are doing like kind of arc type training, or just, some kind of circuits where they're trying to get some more capacity. You're not eating up the bouldering set by doing that, or like eating up the whole spray wall forever. You're just, clocking in your time on the tread wall, and then somebody else clocks in. Anyway, there was a tread wall, like one of the new tread walls at CWA that I checked out, and it was really freaking cool. As you all know, I found a tread wall on Facebook Marketplace that I am in the process of refurbishing and very close to now putting together and having in my garage. It's one of the older ones, so it doesn't have like the full adjustability it's got a little bit of adjustability, but not the full adjustability of like the new ones. But anyway, I'm not sponsored by Treadwall or anything like that, but I just, as a route climber, I just think there's a ton of value, especially if you are a gym that doesn't have ropes. And a lot of the people who come there are going to want to build some endurance and some capacity to either get outside or just have better, longer, higher quality sessions on the blocks. And so I think that is one practical thing that gyms could do. Throw a tread wall over in the corner and set it thoughtfully. And I did a whole conversation with Bill Ramsey about this, and he's written an article that I linked in the show notes of that, of basically how to set a tread wall properly. So I think that could be like a really great thing for bouldering gyms to consider doing. And then the other thing that I was thinking about recently is that because my daughter is going to be joining this youth climbing club/team at our local gym, Rock Sport, and I was thinking, like, why aren't there those for grown-ups? Like, I'm not talking about even competition, but there's like bowling leagues and there's pickleball leagues and all of this, and oftentimes with climbing, you kind of find your crew because they're on the same schedule as you, or they have the same interests, whether it's indoor or outdoor, or the same kind of general skill level, and you just find your crew, which is great. There's always people to meet and find at the gym. But because maybe I just spent some time with Nate Drolet when I was out in Salt Lake, and I only spent a few hours with him at a gym, and just those few hours with Nate, having him kind of watch me climb, and this was essentially like a private one-on-one coaching session, which some gyms have coaches available, but many also don't. It was like a massive breakthrough for me. And when I think about learning, I think oftentimes you can learn better in a small group or even a large group to see how other people either solve a problem or the technique they use, the moves they use, the body positions. And there's so much kind of mystery around improving technique. We do a lot of podcasts, and there's just so much information out there about training and what's the right hangboard protocol, or is BFR something that I should look into, or my strength and conditioning thing. And all of those things are easy to talk about and easy to program because they're fairly set. It's kind of a binary thing. Like, yes, I want a hangboard. Okay, here's some protocols. But technique is so, obviously, just by the nature of it, is so individualized. You can talk about technique and concepts. What's a drop knee? What's a back flag? What's twisty climbing? What's squared up climbing? What's a dead point? Yada, yada, yada. But it's far harder to just translate that, I've found, for me personally, to a session. Like, the most learning I get out of kind of technique breakthroughs is if I have a group board session. So like I have some of my friends over to hop on the kilter board, or I'm at the gym and we're trying some new set out, and I see how they climb it and they see how I climb it. I maybe ask for some advice, and then I'll unlock some little technique thing. And if you listen to the recent conversation that I had with Eric Hurst, the endurance masterclass, we spent the majority of that conversation talking about energy leaks and why improper technique, especially with amateur climbers, weekend warriors, most people who are listening right now, why that fixing those, like kind of turning it from a fire hose to a garden hose, is going to be far more impactful for performance than just getting better localized endurance in our forearms. It's good to get both, I need both, no doubt. But I've definitely got a fire hose, I think, and I've been climbing for a long time. And so, what am I getting at? Well, I think my thought is, okay, well, why don't gyms have regular classes? Maybe some do. And if your gym has that, awesome, let me know. But most of the gyms that I'm aware of, or that I've certainly attended, will have like youth programs, but I don't see adult programs. They'll have a class on how to belay. They'll have a class on how to clip bolts for like intro to lead climbing. Maybe a gym to crag class, which is cool and also very important to understand the ethic and being good stewards outside, but also the safety around it and practically kind of how to take indoor skills and move them outdoors. All of that's great. But why not like a league, like a bowling league or a pickleball league where, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be about competition, but it's about learning. A lot of gyms have yoga classes. Why aren't there climbing classes? Are there climbing classes? Maybe I'm just, we don't have any of like the big kind of corporate gyms in Louisville here, and I just might be slightly out of touch. But I guess if you're a gym owner or a manager or a setter or whatever, and you're hearing this and you don't have something like that, I'd love to hear why, or maybe it's just, an issue of practicality and there aren't funds for it or something like that. But I would certainly pay extra. If I was a member, I would pay extra to once a week or twice a week or whatever the cadence is, come in and spend an hour or two with a coach and people who are psyched and maybe at a similar level. Maybe it's kind of categorized by levels, or maybe it's just categorized by interest, Intro to dynamic bouldering. I mean, I would take that class in a freaking second. I spent a few hours with Emil Abrahamson at Portland Rock Gym, and he worked with me on modern bouldering style, and the breakthroughs I had in that session were freaking mind-boggling. If you haven't seen that video, I did it with Emil for Struggling with Emil Abrahamson. It's on the Struggle Climbing Show YouTube channel, and then he has one on his channel as well. But anyway, just working with me for a few hours, I got so much better and also just learned how to enjoy modern style bouldering in ways that I had never experienced it before, to the tune where I now seek out some like run and jumps and coordination type moves, slab type bouldering, which is, again, very outside of my wheelhouse, but I got proficient enough at it, or at least understood the basics of it enough after my time with Emil that now I really enjoy it. And what if that was a class at a gym? What if there was a intro to modern bouldering? What if there was an intro to board climbing class? Because a lot of people are intimidated by boards. What if there's just an ongoing skills class, stop the fire hose type class, where a coach identifies the most common energy leaks and then works on some skills and drills to help the class participants work on that? That seems like it could be a real opportunity for gyms, and I would be first in line to sign up for any of these because I've just seen the impact that it's had on me. And maybe there's some ego that gets involved with climbers. I think I could feel it myself, just like kind of some resistance, like, oh, would I do a class? Like when I was originally thinking about the idea. And, there's a bit of ego that comes in. It's like, well, no, I mean, I'm climbing pretty hard outside, and I don't know, would I want to be in like a beginner energy leak class or intro to dynamic bouldering class? And, I think the answer is yes. Like, forget the ego. First of all, the people there are going to be cool. And so this is another benefit for gyms is you're bringing a group of people together who have similar interests, and now they're going to be climbing partners. And maybe they'll be partners when they go outside, or maybe there's no interest in going outside, but it's just good to have somebody to spot you and to work beta at the new set that they've got on the wave wall or whatever. And so having these classes will foster a stronger community, probably increase membership retention, because if you're in one of these ongoing classes or leagues or whatever, you're going to want to keep your membership going. And then for climbers, I just see it as like a cheat code to progression. In my mind, I've progressed far faster when I've unlocked different understandings of technique and movement and position than when I've put in some sort of new like strength training protocol. Again, both are important, but those kind of quote unquote soft skills or whatever that you get when you're working with a group and of course, very importantly, somebody who knows what they're doing. So like a coach, somebody who not only is just a good climber, but who can communicate climbing concepts well to a group. That kind of learning just always leads to breakthroughs, whether it's like smashing through a plateau or just unlocking like a new style that is really fun and brings more joy to your training and your climbing day. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Treadwalls and classes for grown-ups, climbing classes, not just yoga classes, not just gym to crag or belay classes, but like just like ongoing like group coaching or like climbing leagues where we can just get better and then be a part of like a stoked group who also wants to get better. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. If you attend a gym that does this, I'd love to hear about it. So you can, ping me when I post this episode. I'll put an Instagram post and some reels together for it. So let me know if that's what you're doing. I'd love to check out the gyms that are doing that. And then if you're at a gym that isn't doing this, maybe share this episode with them and see if they get psyched. And what else is going on with me? Well, I just went climbing outside, and I definitely have lots of energy leaks, so I'm going to be working on that. I'll do a new plog at the end of the month. I've got a new app that's coming out that's been in the works for more than a year that I could not be more excited about. It is so freaking good and actually addresses some of the things that I just talked about, and also will, I think, just bring a lot of joy to your training, your climbing, and help you to make the most of every session. So I'll do an announcement on that very soon. Keep your eye out. It's called Intentional Climber. And in terms of training, I'm still going pretty hard on my Kilter board, decking a lot on my Asana pads. Shout out Kilter and Asana. Check your show notes if you want to get some stuff from them. We've got discounts in there. And yeah, we're kind of like inching our way into the summer months here. So I'm not sure how many more outdoor days I'm going to get, but I'm basically maximizing my time outdoors at the Red as much as I can. And then when the really hot, muggy, humid, probably too gross to get outside months come in, so like July, August, part of September, usually we're pretty good like into June. Then I will be definitely getting that treadwall set up and starting to run laps on the treadwall, working on those energy leaks, and then just building as much capacity as humanly possible. So yeah, let's get after it. Let's get after it inside and outside. Let's prepare ourselves for highball gyms and fully modular amorphous climbing walls that can replicate any project with the touch of a button. And in the meantime, let's just go try to send that new pink problem in the corner.